Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 drama. Bad news potentially for Ferrari going into the upcoming season, with rumours circulating that there are still concerns at Maranello about the reliability of their power unit. They say they've worked hard on the reliability over the last few months to fix their key issue from last season, but sources suggest internally they're still not convinced they've solved all their issues. Very much intrigued your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. So going into the new season, lots of optimism as there always is this time of year about Ferrari, their potential. Their car looks great. I'm sure it's going to be very fast. But last year, they had the drivers, they had the one-lap pace in the car, but they lacked over the course of the season the developmental upgrades to the car that Red Bull and Mercedes were able to bring. They lacked at times the ability to maintain their tyres over the course of a Grand Prix. They lacked in the strategy and the operational department from the Grand Prix weekend perspective. And they also lacked in reliability. That was the key gremlin that was the downfall of Ferrari last year. The fact that they lost all those points in Baku and Spain and other races compared to their rivals in Red Bull and Max Verstappen, and of course subsequent penalties for taking new engine parts then set them back even further. That was really what killed their season, regardless of all the strategy mistakes they certainly did make, but it doesn't make too much difference if you're putting yourself on such a massive back foot situation. So all the teams going into the new season have upgraded their reliability. We don't exactly know what Alpine have done, but Ferrari say they can unlock 30 horsepower more. They don't say that, but rumours suggest they can unlock that amount if they were able to run their power unit at maximum power. Compared to last year, they had to turn it down significantly so it wouldn't explode in the last few races of the season. I think they turned it up again in Monza and just hoped it wouldn't blow up, but they still didn't win anyway, even with Verstappen running a medium downforce rear wing setup round there. So Mercedes have unlocked a bit more, Red Bull have unlocked a bit more. Alpine say we haven't really done anything, but we'll see how it goes for them. So it's believed that Mercedes might have found about 10, 12, 16 extra horsepower. Red Bull maybe about 10 horsepower. Ferrari have more in the tank potentially if their engine actually survives the course of a Grand Prix. That's the key thing they've got to figure out. Even Honda have said that for the Red Bull powertrain engine, they have opened up more strategic options by improving their reliability. So every team is saying we're improving reliability. That's one of the key focus points, which of course is very much true. But it's obviously a key focus point for Ferrari more than anyone after the results they had last season. So the latest discussion has been over the last, let's say, month or so, has been, okay, yeah, Ferrari unlocking all this extra reliability, extra horsepower as a result there to turn down the engine last year due to poor reliability. Now they're going to be able to completely open the taps on what is probably the most powerful engine on the grid, when of course it is operating as intended. Even Charles Leclerc said very recently during their launch, there's been a lot of work on our reliability, they're moving in the right direction, and even dyno tests presumably said recently from Ferrari that their reliability woes have been addressed. So that's what Ferrari say. Of course, look, it's Ferrari early season optimism. We know their game, right? We've said it before and time again, and we know how it usually ends. It might be a different story this season, it might be the same old story, and it might take a year or two for, well, Fred Vasseur to really change things internally to ensure this isn't a problem going forward. Maybe it still will be, maybe they've solved all of their issues, but they've got quite a few issues, in my opinion, to solve. But that was the discussion. They've solved their reliability woes. It's going to be all good to go from here. The car's going to be rapid. The engine's going to be rapid, even faster than it was before compared to the opposition, and it's not going to blow up anymore. Fantastic news. Ferrari are going to win both championships. Recent sources, though, over the last 24 hours don't suggest quite the same thing. An exclusive report here by Formula Uno suggests that while there is a lot of optimism around their new power unit, there are still concerns that some things aren't exactly quite right here. And if they're not right now, then when it comes to the third, fourth, fifth, sixth race of the season, just like we had last season, will these same issues once again remain? So this is what was discussed in the article, a big article talking about various kind of aerodynamic changes that Ferrari are making. But to me, it's really the power unit which should be the key focus of the discussion here. So the F175 last year's Ferrari obviously could compete with the RB18 on one lap pace and sometimes in race pace, but it really was the engine that let them down at times. So Maranello is undoubtedly satisfied with the innovations it brought to the track last year. Last season, says the head of the Ferrari power unit, reliability was their Achilles heel. Our main goal in 2023 was to reach the level that we set for ourselves. Going on to say the signals, though, are certainly interesting. So apparently they are able to do some test runs at full power. So they do the test runs on like the dyno at the factory, not running it on the track, but just seeing how the engine can cope. And they're able able to run it at full power in part, right? So it seems to suggest they've solved at least some of their issues from last season, but it doesn't seem like they've resolved all of their problems, because the article goes on to say, however, there are some issues, although they do not worry Ferrari's technicians excessively, at least for now. So they've obviously run into some issues here, and this is the tricky thing, right? They were able to develop reliability quite a lot over the off-season. They may well have made some progress, but the problem is for Ferrari is if they say, all right, guys, we're going to completely open the taps, 30 extra horsepower, let's give it a go, the engine's going to be fine, but actually there are some issues there still remaining, then it does raise some concerns. Maybe Ferrari are able to up the power a bit compared to last season. Whether they're able to go all out with the power unit, that does not seem incredibly likely with this analysis that's done here in the article. So saying there are some issues, the current area of weakness is said to be the turbocharger unit. This, I believe, was the massive issue back in Mexico last year. Higher altitudes, I think Ferrari run a smaller turbo compared to some of the other teams, and at higher altitudes with less air, the turbo really suffers. They had to turn down their engine massively, right? You guys well know, back at Mexico, where Mercedes and Red Bull just destroyed them both. So, you know, look, they say they've got some positive feedback from the dyno. The track will, of course, tell us if they've done a good job, but, you know, they say there are some issues here they've still got to solve. So that's a little bit concerning, right, from the Ferrari side, that they've done these tests and they kind of say publicly that, yeah, guys, it's all fixed, no problem. The reliability issues have been solved, addressed, and it's time for the World Championship to finally return to Maranello, but maybe not, right? Sources say that there are some issues here, especially involving the turbocharger is the current area of weakness. So definitely a bit of a concern, because last year I think both Leclerc and Sainz took like at least, I think it was 6 ICEs. They might have taken internal combustion engines over the course of the year, whereas I think it was George Russell only ever used 3, and I think both the Red Bull drivers used 4, Hamilton used 4, so you know that's kind of the numbers you usually see. Now Ferrari have already said they plan on using 4 engines across the races this year. This, I imagine, will be a very common opinion across the grids, because like there's 23 races now, there's more races than ever, there's 6 sprint races now, like there's so much on-track action that surviving that with 3 engines is so challenging anyway. I think it makes sense for the teams to say, you know what, we'll just use 4, and to be honest, if they made the rules that you can use 4 engines for the season, the teams will probably just use 5. Like that's how it will go. They'll happily take a penalty at one weekend of the season to ensure they've got an extra engine in the pool. So you know, basically they're already admitting they're going to use 4 engines at least this year, so they already know that they're going to be running this power unit at quite high rates of power, let's say. Whether any of these issues come to blow up the car, we'll see, because what they just can't afford to happen again is what happened at the start of last season. It was all going so well in Bahrain, even Jeddah was pretty good. Okay, they lost to Red Bull, but it was a rocket ship in a straight line, and then they won in Australia, right, in Melbourne. Charles Leclerc won first and third race. He was like 43 or so points ahead of Verstappen at that time, and then Baku, and then Spain, and then strategic issues, but also, right, because he had to take a new power unit in Canada, Leclerc was stuck at the back of the field from the start. Like, it was already obvious around about that time in the season that it was not going to be good, and even in Austria, right, where Sainz's car blew up when they were on their way to a potential 1-2. So they can't afford this to happen again, and exactly what they do to avoid this, I don't know. I think it's less likely this season because of some improvements they have made, but they might not be able to do what quite they expected to if these small issues are indeed a thing. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Just thought it was quite interesting that Leclerc talked about the fact that he's been very impressed by Vasseur so far, what he's been able to do to the team, and also one interesting update from Drive to Survive, not something we really talk about too often here, but with Daniel Ricciardo leaving Formula 1, Paul Martin, one of the main producers, has said that he's pretty sad Ricciardo's leaving, who was effectively the main character of the series. They've chosen, though, or at least he expects, that Pierre Gasly will replace him as kind of like the star character and the main guy, which is a bit surprising to me. I don't know if there's anyone who really can replace Ricciardo in that kind of role, but nonetheless, I wouldn't have expected Gasly to be the man that, Drive to Survive have their targets on for the 2023 edition. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.